Can you keep guns in India? Today, Shiven Asthana, a second-year law student, would be discussing about this issue. You might have seen some people using firearms at weddings and other places to portray a status symbol, but do you think it is right? Just in the 10 days of December, which is the peak wedding month in the country, there have been multiple cases of people being injured or killed due to the firing in the name of celebration. In Bareilly, a man was in a severe condition ended up injuring 4 people in the crowd in the name of celebratory firing. In Uttar Pradesh, a 22-year-old dancer was shot in the face as she stopped dancing. On December 9, as the bill which to ban the guns, the ban on Guns Act and to monitor the licensed guns and all was being passed in the Lok Sabha, a woman was killed in Muzaffarnagar as a man fired shots in the celebration. The woman, who had been hired to help the bride through the wedding, was shot in the head. The parliament declared that celebratory firing at weddings or in public places is now a punishable offence. An offender of the same could face imprisonment of up to 2 years, fine or 1 lakh of both. If you think this all is very exciting and fascinating, then don't fall in these traps. Else you could be booked under section 336 of IPC and various other sections of Arms Act. Let's talk about the history of Arms Act in India. With the British uprising in India in the middle 1800s, the incidents like bad pay, racial insensitivity, poor terms of pensions, increasing cultural indifference, etc. on the part of British officers contributed to the discontent among Indian soldiers. The Sepoy Mutiny of 1857 was an outcome of the greased cartridges, which had a catalytic effect on the religious sentiments of Hindu and Muslim soldiers. The Britishers were under an immense fear that such repeated rebellions in the future would lead to the end of British colonial rule from India forever. Although the rebellion failed, the illegal and unauthorized use of British weapons such as guns, rifles, etc. by the Indian soldiers led to the introduction of Arms Act of 1878. The act, passed under the tenure of then Viceroy Lord Lytton, ensured that no Indian could possess a weapon of any description unless the Crown was satisfied that he was a loyal subject to the Crown. The position of the Arms Act remained unobjected up to until 12 years of India gaining independence, when the Arms Act of 1959 was passed. Any ordinary citizen in India cannot just go to a shop and buy a gun. The strict laws in India on arms controls have made it nearly impossible for an ordinary citizen to own a gun. Nevertheless, the procedure for acquiring a gun is laid down clearly under Chapter 3 of Arms Act. First and foremost, to own a gun in India, a civilian needs to be minimum of 21 years of age. An application form needs to be filled by the applicant which asks about his or her past criminal behavior. Guns are only for 3 purposes: crop protection, sport and self-defense. For a self-defense license, a civilian has to prove imminent threat to his life. Protection can also be from wild animals. Other than that, certain documentation is necessarily required for the applicant: identity proof, residence proof, age proof, education proof, residence proof, 4 photographs, last 3 years of income tax returns, character certificate and verification for eminent members in the locality. Health certificates, both mental and physical. The next step involves the police performing applicant's strict background check for 2 months, interviewing the applicant and his family, his neighbors, checking his mental health history, behavior towards others, oppressive or aggressive, domestic violence and various other things. The recorded interviews are then sent to the Criminal Branch and National Crime Record Bureau for record keeping. It is after this the licensing authorities interview the applicant, and the reason for their approval or declining of license is also documented. The applicant whose applications are approved have to observe mandatory arms handling course whereby they learn safe handling, firing and transporting a gun. The license granted has to be renewed after every 3 years, since owning a gun in India is only a privilege and not a right. The government reserves the right to confiscate such weapons at any time. In case a civilian intends to procure a gun from a factory, more documentation is required: residential proof, the factory must possess a transportation license to transfer a gun, and a mandatory no objection certificate for the factory owner and the police. This process requires a month, after which it has to be produced for inspection and record keeping. It is mandatory for any person carrying a gun to carry it in a holster or a rucksack in case of rifles. So holster is basically the case, and rucksack is the case for rifles. Holster is a case for carrying a pistol. So, in conclusion, from April 2019, the Union Ministry of Home Affairs, that is MHA, is planning to maintain a national database of arms license which will include the details of all license holders, both old and new, and they will be issued a unique identification number. This measure is taken in the wake of keeping a check on authorized and unauthorized gun owners, many of whom are also involved in crime leading to loss of lives. As I have quoted in the case of December, where there have been several people killed in the weddings. So yeah, thank you.